It was on this very racecourse that the son of Go Deputy Abashiri shed his maiden tag. And of course it is every self-respecting owner's dream to win the Vodacom Durban July, South Africa's most famous thoroughbred horse race. But in between, Abashiri has won the Sea Cottage Handicap. He's been placed in the Dingons and has become only the third horse in the history of South African horse racing to win the Triple Crown, along with Louis the King and Horse Chestnut, 1999, 2014, 2016. We are now going to go to Summerveld and catch up with Michael Azzi to find out exactly what the aftermath of the Triple Crown has yielded for Abashiri, for Team Azzman, and of course, whether or not we'll see Abashiri run in this year's Vodacom Durban July. An absolutely fascinating subject. Let's go and chat to the Azzman. Mike, I was once given a beautiful little book called Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill, in which he said that the best definition of success that he'd ever encountered was, quite simply, that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
Andrew, I like that, and I'll tell you my reasons for liking that. It relates a lot to my life and my career in this industry. First of all, I was blessed with having a wealth of knowledge in my granddad George Azzi and my father Herbert, and I was able to tap them, albeit not for a long while. I was still a young man, but I'd realized from a very tender age that this is what I wanted to do. Every single day that you wake up, you're waking up in something that you just love doing. And you have these beautiful animals that you work with that get into your heart and your soul. So I'm truly blessed. I'm a very lucky man.
You've always been like this, Michael. I know you've always been passionate, but I think having the Triple Crown as a notch on your belt, it must have done something to your persona as being one of 3 human beings that have ever trained Triple Crown winners in South Africa.
Oh yes, it does, Andrew. You know, I've had a lot of Group 1 winners, but something like the Triple Crown is no mean feat. It's 63 days of hell on that poor horse. And when a horse comes through that, that's when you really look at that horse with so much respect and love and realize how blessed you are to work with these animals.
When a good horse gets beaten, if it's a close fought finish, I think they know they got beaten. What do you think?
It's so funny that you say that, Andrew, because with Abashiri, when he won in the Derby, I think he knows he's a champion and he refused to lie down. And Warren Kennedy did say to me that he had Carl on his inside, and the next minute Carl disappeared and pulled back and then dived out to the outside and sent him 5-6 lengths clear of them, right at the top of the straight. And he said, your horse was gone. I thought, that's race over. And then I saw him coming back to me and he said, I actually headed your horse, but your horse wouldn't lie down. He just kept pegging back. And I think good horses know they're champions and they want to win. And I think when a top horse gets beat, he knows in himself that he got beat. You know, some people think I'm off the charts and I'm mad and this looks off his rocker, but believe you me, I believe horses can relate to people. And it's a funny thing, I've got a little filly at my back home called Dover Beach. And Adrian van Vieren bought that for his little girl, Daniela. And from a young age, he'd been visiting that horse on Sundays and giving her carrots and things like that. And she hadn't seen her for a while when she went to pee and came back. And the one day she's in the stables just speaking, walking from the top barn down to the bottom barn. And this filly heard this kid and she started calling to her. And she pulled this child in with her muzzle and held her toward her and started whinnying with her. And I promise you, it brought tears to my eyes. My hair on my arm stood up, and I've never ever had that feeling about a horse the way it is with a kid. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing that day. So I honestly believe that these are such wonderful specimens we're all blessed to be associated with, and me, privileged to work with them.
It was in this particular yard that you made the statement one afternoon. We were talking about runners in Johannesburg, and we digressed to the race which Rabada had won, and you said to me, never forget what I'm telling you now, that horse, Abashiri, is going to be a very big runner in the Triple Crown, and Matthew Stevens remembers it clearly. I'm sure many people remember it. What made you so sure that this horse was going to be the one?
Andrew, when he won his maiden plate, he hadn't done much. He did very much what Dynasty did first time out, and we all know what Dynasty went and did. He ran a maiden mile at Greyville, and he whipped his field. And this horse did it as well. He turned for home. Corne was scrubbing his horse at the back of the field, going nowhere, turned for home, and it's almost like he was in a different race. He just started picking them off one by one. He beat the horse of Sean Terry's called Grazer Rocking. And when I started speaking about him, a lot of people said, oh, but Grazer Rocking, what is that? It's not what he beat, it's how he beat them and the work that he'd had coming into that race. And I just knew that he's something special. They let you know well early on in their careers they're special. He's just one of those horses that gets to you, you know, and an intelligent horse at that. I was pretty uptight on Derby Day. And Carl walked in and he was just crying, and the tears were coming down his face, and I knew we were in trouble here. And it's probably why Carl erred slightly in his ride in the race. The occasion might have got to him slightly. And I just put my arm around him and said, come son, you're on the best horse. Just take it in your stride. You've won the Guineas, you've won the Classic. You don't have to do anything different. And I hope that helped him a bit. But then this was when the crowd were chanting, go, Abba, go. And he's walking around the parade ring. And he actually stopped for 2 or 3 strides and turned his head, cocked his head towards the crowd and actually looked at them chanting for him. It made me realize then that I'm not completely off my rocker when I tell people that these horses understand and they can feel when people are behind them and love them. And he definitely knew. And I think in the finish, when he put that head of his down and dug down deep, he dug down to the bottom of his feet to get past that line first, because he knew how big the occasion was, not only for himself, but for everyone concerned. For my team back home, they put a lot of hard hours in. The physio Jane, the farrier Andy, the vets, Adam, Ryan, Natalie, Quinton. Without my team behind me, I wouldn't be there.
Well, there were 2 things that I wanted to touch on specifically. The number one thing was the high drama as he was about to exit the parade ring. I haven't shown anybody this footage until now. When the lead rein got stuck and the groom was getting dragged behind him, it was a nerve-wracking time, and I could see there was an element of panic in your voice.
Oh yes, I think the groom just started to get the shakes and he couldn't get the clip loose, and I could see that everyone was feeling the pressure. And I think with the crowd and everyone going mad, everyone just sort of, it got to everyone concerned. And luckily, we saved the day. Adam, my son, really cool-headed boy. So, wow.
Yeah.
I'm blessed.
Yeah.
To have my boys following my shoes. He's a calm boy. And I think he'll be very good for the game in the long run.
To put the lid on it, Michael, in my last interview with Graham Hawkins after Guineas Day, he said, we don't expect to see Abashiri lining up for Daily News 2000. You did say that in passing. What's the latest situation in terms of Abashiri and his participation in the Season of Champions?
His participation in the Season of Champions, if he does participate at all, will only be in the July. He's been here now just short of 3 weeks, and I haven't worked him at all. He's just been walking. He had his first trot this morning because I felt it was a tough task. He was a tired horse and he needed to come back and be himself. To boot, his groom took 2 weeks leave straight afterwards because he hadn't had 12 weeks off, not a day off, a Wednesday, a weekend. He just stayed with his horse every single day. And to Joseph, gee, what a good guy. And when he left, this was fine for him. He was very, very quiet for the first 10 days in Natal, and I was a bit worried about him. And as Joseph got back, the morning that he got back and he walked in, he ran to the door and his ears pricked up. He could hear that boy's voice. And he's a different horse. He's just been perky. He's come alive again. I said I'm going to give him 3 weeks. I was tempted to start working in this week on Wednesday, but I said no. I said I'm going to give him 3 weeks off after that race. So we'll wait until Monday and then we'll give him his first bit of work. But all's going good with him, Andrew, and we're pretty chuffed where we are at the moment.
So if it happens that he's ready for the Vodacom Durban July, the race that everybody wants to win, not least of all Adrian and Rika, you'll run him. Otherwise, would you go Champions Cup, or what's the thinking?
If he doesn't go for the Vodacom July, then he'll just have a nice holiday down here at KZN and go for the Queen's Plate and the Met. And hopefully he can prove to everyone just how good he is down there, because I believe he's good enough to do it, and I have no reason to believe that he can't beat the best of them down there. He'll be a much stronger horse, mentally, physically, all around. He'll just be a happier horse. I know Adrian is really desperate to win the July, but in the same interest, he's not a simple man. And he said, Michael, if at all we feel that the race will hurt him or the time is not right, I'm leaving it in your hands. So it all depends on how he is. He will let us know.
Mike, obviously climatic change is very important. It's quite a chilly day by KwaZulu-Natal standards today. Joburg is obviously much colder. But what kind of precautions do you take to make sure that the climatic change is as minimal as possible for him?
Well, you know, at home he's got a band of infrared lights in his box at all the time, especially when it starts getting colder in the winter. He had them on. He's got a whole infrared camp on top of his head there, as well as being fenced off and cordoned off. Here we have infrared lights in the box. It is pretty warm down here, so they stay with a day sheet most of the time. But if it gets chilly, he's got a nice winter rug, it'll go on to him. And their coats have improved, so they're obviously not feeling the climate here. With the odd nippy day, it can get a bit chilly up here, but then we'll just rug them in the evening.
But this particular blanket that he's got on right now is no ordinary blanket.
No, it's not, Andrew. It's a rather expensive blanket. It's a back-on-track blanket. It works on the muscle and the skeletal system, as well as it's air ventilated. So on a hot day, it'll keep him cool, and on a cold day, it'll keep him warm.
And of course, the circulation in this barn is phenomenal. It really is the way it flows through here.
Absolutely. You know, in life there are a lot of critics. Everyone moans and groans about things. I think there are one or two small things here that they could change. But on a whole, I think they got it pretty close to right.